Hello, Alejandro. How are you?
Hello, I'm great. Thank you for having me.
No,
Um,
thank you. You. It's a real pleasure to be able to interview a photographer and a good one. So thank you so much.
that is a beautiful compliment. Thank you so much.
And actually, it's funny, but you are the first photographer that I interview about NFTs. Actually, so it's gonna be really interesting.
Oh, I love that. And actually, we're physically very close to each other in France, the both of us.
Yeah, you just arrived. It's amazing. Bienvenue.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. I love France, and so I'm happy to be here too.
Okay, so actually, my first question gonna be
Mhm.
simply, who are you? Where are you
Mhm.
from? And where do you live now?
So my name is Alejandro Cartagena. I was born in Dominican Republic, and then I moved to Mexico in the 1990s.
Okay.
I studied leisure management,
Okay.
and which is a very strange career. I worked in restaurants and hotels for many years, but I've always felt inclined for art. I studied music, and then eventually I did a master's degree in visual studies. And
Okay.
in that, in through that master's, I really got into the idea of what do images mean and how do they work as a cultural phenomenon.
Mhm.
And that is a big obsession of mine, and that's kind of how I got into NFTs and understanding what NFTs are.
So yeah, so since how long are you photographer?
Mm. So I've been taking pictures since 2004, more or less. I like a lot of people just as a hobby,
Mhm.
photographing, but very fast seeing how photographs can really help you understand the world you live in. And there are certain codes of how an image works, especially a photograph. And
Mhm.
I kind of understood it, and I just kept playing the game of how to take pictures of the world. And yeah, and I'm here now. Yes.
Yeah, this is what we can see through your website.
Hmm.
You are mostly doing so landscape photography.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Mm.
So, my obsession with landscape is because I mean, there's many reasons. Photography and landscape have always been together. Two of the first photographs ever taken were of landscapes. The reason for that is the technique. It was actually done here in France.
Oh, where?
Yeah, and his name was oh my god, Niepce. He
Yes.
was he was the
Okay.
first photographer, or the first person to, well, in recorded history, right? There must be others that we don't know of, but he's credited with the first image, and it's just an image of a landscape. So just just because of that, I think there's always been a bigger development of landscape photography in photography, because we started there, and there is a relationship between the land and capturing the land that is always changing. It's always modifying itself because of nature, because of human interaction with the land. So for me, it's part of that I want to capture is how do we as human beings interact with the space we live in, and how can you capture that to talk about the history of photography and talk about the history of humanity on the landscape. So that is very fascinating for me.
Yeah, it's really interesting because sometimes we pass in front of landscape and we
Mhm.
just, we stay a few minutes and that's all.
Yes.
And photograph is that, capturing that from your point of view,
Yes.
like capturing something that looks not dead, but something that look, simple.
Still. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And capturing it, shows different. It shows your vision actually.
Yes. Yes.
And
And
Yes, please.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you just said exactly this is why photography is art. Photography is my point of view on something else. It's never about being objective. It's actually about projecting my own personal idea of the world I live in on an image. So you described it perfectly. That is why photography is art, because it's the photographer looking, not the landscape looking at me.
Yeah,
It's
it's
the
your
other way
vision.
around. Yes.
And actually, later on, we're gonna go through your website. If it's okay for you, we're gonna share
Yes.
it like this for the people who don't know your work. We can have a vision of what you
Yes.
do.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, you know what? We're gonna do it like right now, like this. You can
Okay.
explain us in live. So, how
Sure.
many collections did you do? I mean, not collection, but series did you do
Oof.
in
For
photography in general?
I've done a lot. I don't know, maybe 30 to 50 different projects. I have like 24 books published already, and I mean, and now working with NFTs, maybe I've dropped or launched more than 8 projects in the NFT space. Um, I I'm very obsessed with what I do, and this has led me to do projects that are interlinked between each other. So when I started photographing 15 years ago, I started getting interested in people, then the landscape, then people and the landscape, then it's been very organic. When I was photographing landscapes, and so that people that don't know precisely my work, it's landscapes, but not only about beauty, but it's landscapes that have human interaction in them. So, like I have a big project about housing developments inside of the landscape, and that that small project led me to create almost 10 projects after that,
Yeah, I see.
because I start asking the questions, well, how did those houses get there? And then try to figure out how they got there. And I photographed the bureaucracy of getting the house there. I started to document, where did the people that live there, where did they live before?
Wow.
And then I asked also the question, how do you get from where you live to where you work? How does that look? And I photographed the infrastructure. Then I photographed the people traveling. I photographed people driving privately. I photographed people driving in the public transportation. So this is how I think contemporary photography is actually doing something new, because everything has been photographed.
Yes.
What we need to find as artists is propositions where you find connections between things that maybe have not been put together before.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I see now. I
yeah,
see.
so you
And
have
yes.
houses and then you have transportation. It's a logical idea, but to do it in projects and then put them together, that's where the poetic
Mm,
is, when you
no,
put those things together.
fascinating. Yeah, it's really fascinating because at first sight we can just see different, your photographies and
Mhm.
just seeing it on a beautiful way. But when you see and when you explain the link, it
Mhm.
gives even more. I don't know how to explain. It gives even more vision of what you
Mhm.
want to transmit. And
Yes.
actually, as you know, Jenny Dao just acquired Carpooler 32.
Yes.
So I'm gonna share our screen on this photography, and like this, you can explain us what is it about for the
Yeah.
people who don't know. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Carpoolers comes out precisely of these research or these development of one project leading to another project.
Could you see the
So
screen?
yes, I see.
Wonderful.
It's a, yeah,
So
I see it
explain
there.
us.
So I like the idea of how a project has different layers for people to come into the image and the project itself. So uh, like this project, the Carpoolers project, it starts in the 1980s when I came to Mexico and traveled with my grandfather, who was a construction worker, and
Mhm.
he did this with his colleagues going to work.
Okay.
So he had his old truck, Ford truck, and he would put us in the back of the truck, right?
Okay.
So there's a personal understanding for me of the people I'm photographing. They are part of who I am as a human being and my history
In
as a
your
human being.
construction. Yeah.
Yes. So it starts there. Then it's about where do they go to work? They
Yeah.
go to work to a place in the city where I've taken a lot of pictures because I'm interested in that part of the city and how it's been urbanized. And then where do they come from? The houses. Those houses where they come from, I've also photographed. So it's how do I find connections between the different parts of projects that I've already done. So this project was the perfect link
Mhm.
between 5 years of working
So,
in different projects. Yeah.
yeah. So actually, um, the car, for example, it's exactly the line between where they come from and where they are going.
Yes, exactly. And
It's
and
really interesting.
yeah, and here is a moment that is
True.
not, yeah, it's true, it's life happening in front of you, but it also, and this is for me the beauty of photography, it points to many directions,
Mm-mm.
right? Because the way I captured, they are isolated, but they're isolated and you can ask the question, where do they come from, where are they going, and who are they? So this is the opportunity that a photograph can give you as a spectator. You can actually imagine or start to speculate what is happening in the image.
Imagination.
Yes.
Imagination, actually. And my question,
Yeah, go
sorry.
ahead.
No, no, please continue.
No,
It's really
and this is again one of the beauties of photography, that from a very mundane moment you can imagine a whole world.
it's true.
Yes.
And my question is, so how did you took this picture actually? It looked like you are on a bridge or something? No?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was doing a commission for a research institute in Mexico about how people use their cars.
Okay.
And I was taking pictures of all sorts of ways. I was driving to work with people, blue collar workers. I was driving to work with sorts of people. And then they wanted to see how traffic looks in
Okay.
the city, and then how do people clean their cars, how do people park their cars.
Okay.
And one of the things that they wanted was the highway system in the city. How does that look like?
Okay.
And so I found a pedestrian bridge over one of the main highways in Monterrey. This is an hour and a half south of the US border.
Okay.
So it's a big city, it's 5 million people, and this highway connects the north with the south of the city. And I found this pedestrian bridge and I saw them coming, and I with my camera in my hand, I just look over the bridge and I take one picture or two. That's it. I wanted to play the game of not taking too many pictures, and one of them being the good one,
Mm-mm.
because I've up to that moment I only took pictures with big cameras, with film. You know this image of a photographer underneath a black cloth looking at a camera. Uh,
Yes.
this is how I took pictures. They're four
Okay.
by yes, 4x5 negatives, very slow process. So for this, it was almost impossible to do that because the highway is boom, boom, boom.
Yeah,
The
it's
cars
that's super fast and
super fast. So I bought a digital camera, and I played the game to myself that I would only take one or two pictures,
wow.
and that's why it took me a whole year to get maybe 100 good images. Uh, of which only 50 are NFTs today. Yeah.
Yeah, because actually, when we look this picture, it looks like the car, the truck is stopped. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And that's the guy who is on the right with his red shirt, put it on purpose.
I
It's
know, I know.
even red.
I know. There's
Amazing. Now that we know the process, that it was like on the 1 second instant, like you just
yes.
capture something that look, I don't know, looks fixed, but was going super fast, and it's
Yeah.
amazing.
I remember having a solo exhibition in New York, and some of for the people who want to look a little more at the details in the 50 carpoolers and the NFTs. If you look close enough, you'll see the same truck several times, because I went to the same place at the same time. I capture the same people in different months of the year. Yes. So when I exhibited that, I remember one lady that came to me and she's like, I don't believe anything of this work. This is all fixed. This is all a
Yes,
stage
set up.
photograph.
Yeah, it's set up. I asked the guy to put a red T-shirt, and I asked him to pretend he's sleeping. No, but because
Yes.
it's so purely captured that it
Yeah.
seems, I think
Impossible. Yes.
if you don't explain, it's really hard to believe the commitment you did for. You stayed 5 years? No, 5.
1 year.
Yeah, sorry, 1 year. The
Yes.
commitment to be here at the same time to, I think, have 20 fail for maybe
Yeah.
one kind
Yes.
of good, but this one good, worst. Like it's amazing. It's a really
Yeah. There's
beautiful commitments.
yeah, and this Carpoolers 32. I mean, it's one of those beautiful coincidences of life.
Yeah.
His T-shirt that looks like a bandana,
Yes.
and the form of his body, and
Yes.
how the two bodies articulate one with the other. It's almost like a dance. They're dancing between the objects, because they're you see their legs, there's objects, and they're trying to fit between the whole space.
Exactly.
So it's this for me was very important, and why I saw that they were going to work as a series. It's
Mhm.
because the other part of this project is the houses they live in. They live in these small houses in the outskirts of the city.
Maybe we can share it if you want.
Yes,
Is it on your?
it's
Is it
the one that you have as a background, if you want.
okay? So
Yeah,
I can share it because I have your website.
or go to Suburbia Mexicana. Um,
You're gonna. Okay, I share. So now tell me
okay.
where I should go.
Okay, so go to Suburbia Mexicana there. Let me see. There it is. That's the book. And go further to the left, to the right. Here.
This
Yes, that houses those houses right there. So you can see it's small, but oh, there we go. So these are the houses where they are coming from, and this is a social program for social housing that was started in Mexico at the beginning of the 21st century, and they've built millions and millions of these houses. And I never wanted to photograph inside of the house. And when I saw the carpoolers, it's almost like I'm photographing how they live inside of that house, but
totally. Totally.
in the public space.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you see them acting out like if they're sleeping in their house, and then you see these houses, and there's a beautiful connection between these two projects that help you understand how they live, and why they go to work. And they're living the dream of owning a house, but they have to do whatever it takes to go to work. And it talks about economical situations, political situations, transportation issues. I mean, I love the simplicity of the image and how many things you can think about from one simple visual interaction with life.
Yeah, because when we see this picture with beautiful skies, blue, and all this houses who looks, really cute, if we can
Yes.
say that. It looks like, no, but what I mean is, of course, there is all these difficulties.
Yes.
And on this picture, it just look like kind of a dream. So I think this is the, the
Oh my God.
yeah.
I love that you have a very perceptive understanding of photographs. I photograph them in the best possible way, almost like a dream,
Mm-mm.
because for me, my whole project, the Carpoolers, Suburbia Mexicana, it's about the dream of home ownership, and this is I photographed it like they see it. Everything is beautiful, the sky is beautiful. It's almost like a brochure of the beautiful life.
If I just see this picture without any context, I want to live here. It's look
Yeah.
like a dream. It's
Yes.
really beautiful, and I think it's exactly the opposition that you wanted to expose. The house
Exactly.
as you see it, and then, if I may, and this is the same houses.
Yes.
But over here, on another perspective, it still look beautiful, but you can see how many houses there is, how little space they have between each other,
Yes.
and how the atmosphere here, it's look more like something from a dystopic movie or something like, in 2000 years where everybody gonna live next to each other.
Yes.
And it's really the opposition. I mean, it's a really beautiful job.
Yeah. You said it perfectly. This is and this is the power of photography, that you can capture real life, but it's how you present the work where art comes to happen with photography. Because to be honest, the cameras today, they can make amazing pictures.
Of course.
But what becomes interesting when you think of photography as art is, how do you use those images to tell a story? That's where things get complicated. How do you, from the 1,000 pictures that you take, how do you take maybe 50 of those images and make a cohesive narrative from those 1,000 pictures? That's where it gets really complicated, because we're talking about storytelling. We're talking about narrative, and that's, I think, where today's photography is art. We have 200 years of the history of photography.
Yes.
In 200 years, we've had many photographers photographing these ideas many times over and over again. So in the 21st century, what we can aspire to as a photographer is to tell the stories in a different way, because the issues, they've been around for years. There's photographers 50 years ago that did images like this in the United States, over. Yes, right.
Not the first one, but it's the way you see it.
Exactly.
It's different because it's unique.
Exactly. And that's what you're trying to look for when you're thinking of doing art in photography, is how do you tell this story? How do you combine the different ideas so that it's unique and it's a proposition? It's, yes, I understand this happened before, but I'm going to take that and I'm going to add this and this and this and make something new out of something that already exists. Almost like the idea of theory, of when you're doing your thesis, you don't talk out of the blue that you know something. You say, I think this in reference to this other idea. And then
it's like,
yeah.
It's and then it's a line, and finally you can say when I learned from my first hypothesis, if I can say.
Exactly.
So my question is this theory NFTs too, or no?
Yes, they are. That was the last project that I launched, I think maybe 2 months ago.
Okay.
And they were launched through Foundation. They were one of the 3 first collections that they launched for the platform. That's a really cool story, because on Foundation, when I started in, in March, April, they didn't have
of this year.
Of this year, yes. Well, actually, I started working with Foundation in September of 2020,
Okay.
when it was just a beta site, so it wasn't really what it is today.
Yes.
But when I started with Foundation in March and April of this year, I was always asking them, because I do different projects. I'm like, I need different collections, but I need for them to live independently inside of the website. And I pushed and I pushed, and because the website was still not there, I started to create different usernames. So if you look for me on Foundation, you're gonna find me like 5 different times,
Okay.
because I wanted to do different projects.
Nice.
And then I think it was 2 months ago, they finally launched the idea of a collection. So now I have a username. It's Alecard2, like my Twitter handle, and there you see 3 collections together, and it's Suburbia Mexicana Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3.
Okay. So for you, was NFT something natural? Like, was it for you something not opposite, but something that can be tools and help you to actually share your work and get the opportunity to anyone to got it if they found, sensibility inside your work more easily than going to a gallery and have all the process. So for you, it was something natural, the
Yes.
NFTs?
I would say yes and no. Everybody knows that still there's there's a learning curve to understanding how to
Yes.
produce an NFT and then how to interact with the whole ecosystem. But once that first step is overcome, there's a lot of things that I find very important with NFTs. There's an opportunity to not think of physical space, and that opportunity opens up your work to many more people. The idea of collecting and digital ownership is very fascinating for me, and maybe we'll talk about it a little bit more with some of your other questions. But just to open up that idea, photography and NFTs are something that go together very perfectly, because the photographs are images that
Totally.
circulate through the internet.
Totally.
So it was like,
Copy and copy.
yes, exactly. It was a perfect match, photography and NFTs. Photographs are made to be reproduced. That is their nature,
Totally.
So how do you, as when the internet wasn't not invented, but started to be used massively 30 years ago, photography went down in value. Why? Because we started the paradigm that if it can circulate in the internet, then it must be free and it must not have value because it circulates.
Click, write, save as.
Exactly. So this is something that is actually counterintuitive, because if something circulates, it's because it has value. It's because people understand it. It's because people relate to it. So that has value in reality. So I love this. There's a philosopher called Mackenzie Work, and she talks about how art in the future is about circulation. Whatever image is capable of circulating the most, that is going to be the art that is going to be the most valuable. Because there are very few works of art or images that want to circulate that much, because people are asking for them, people want to see them, people want to know about them. And that was, for me, my philosophical my aha moment as to why NFTs are important. We cannot stop the circulation of images as photographers and as artists.
And you don't. Who wants? You want to share it. You want to share your vision. So
exactly.
people want to keep this for himself. It's about sharing.
Exactly. So the only thing that was missing was the NFT technology of saying you can share all that you want, but everything points to this token that belongs to an artist that
Yes,
has a name, that has a sense of provenance, and
totally.
all the circulation can continue to happen, but everything will always point to this digital spot on a blockchain.
So, do you think, like in a year, what is your vision in a year about NFTs? Do you think it's something sustainable, or do you think it's just a trend? I mean,
Mhm.
I have my opinion on this question. I'm
Mhm.
sure you have,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's interesting to see.
Yeah, I think I've always talked about two big phases of NFTs, at least for photography, because that's where I'm more concentrated. And the first big phase for NFT photography is to translate all the images that have been done outside of NFTs into NFTs. So think of it as the crossover phase, where everything becomes digitized and assigned a place inside of the blockchain.
Mhm.
So this is, I think, maybe a 1 or 2 year phase. Uh,
Okay.
in between that phase, there's going to be a new phase, which is native photo NFTs. And that for me is a project that I'm doing right now called Obscura,
Yes.
where,
Can you tell
yes,
us more about this because
yes.
it's really
So,
fascinating.
yes, so Obscura is betting on native NFTs. What does that mean? That the images, these photographs, are not starting from the outside, but actually starting from inside of the blockchain and then becoming something else on. It becomes an image on social media, it becomes a book, it becomes an exhibition. It's the
It's
other
just
way around.
yeah.
Yes.
And it's kind of
So,
cool now,
yes,
to focus on this, and then if you
go
want to
outside.
an exhibition, but first of all, in the blockchain.
In the blockchain first. So what we're doing, we're commissioning photographers projects
Mhm.
to go out, almost like think of this as the art blocks of photography, in that somebody says, I support a project, and
Mhm.
then we give that money to a photographer and they
It's
go out and take the pictures for that project.
it's a,
And
it's yeah, it's a total opposite in the beginning.
I know. So
Opportunity for the photographer to really, reach all his goal in this kind of photography. He has the opportunity finally
yes,
to have the money to have. He can travel,
yes.
and there is a community because people who invest in that want to have a
Exactly.
word to say, a part of it, and it creates even more. I
A
mean, it's
community. Yeah. It's more of a community because the way Obscura works, we sell season passes.
Mhm.
So you have 55 collectors, 55 people that say, I believe in these projects that Obscura is trying to do.
Mhm.
And we have the sales of those season passes, and then we find 8 photographers and give them the money to do the dream project that they want to do, right?
It's
And they have 4 weeks to go out in the world, photograph what they want, and
what
then it's a reveal of the project, right?
Mhm.
So it's a combination of how photography has worked forever, where there's an idea and then you find the funds and you go out and take the pictures. But here we're mixing it with the idea of native production of NFTs, and we're mixing with the idea of collectors supporting photographers. So it's both the idea of a collector having a collection, but it's also a collector minting a project for a photographer. So it's a beautiful, it's people betting on ideas of artists. And I think that is the most beautiful thing, because as an artist, I want somebody to support me, a patron, to
Mhm.
do the crazy things that I want to do, right? And this was the perfect combination, where we have people who are willing to bet on people's ideas and projects based on what they've done in the past, right?
I will put the link of Obscura
Yes,
in the detail, because it's really, really amazing to be able to connect people who don't have, the capacity of photographing, but who believe in it. And
yes, exactly.
it's a beautiful way of rewarding either the collector, either the artist, in total transparency. So
it's so the people who have supported the project, and we've already sold out 2 of the big projects that we're creating. We have Magnum photographers, who are these photographers, Robert Capa, Henri Cartier-Bresson, a Frenchman, who invented this agency in the 20th century. And they are one of the biggest photography agencies in the world. So we're commissioning 8 of their photographers for Obscura. And then we have 8 curated photographers for Obscura. So those are already sold out. And then we have a community commission where we assign a project for 10 photographers, and they all do the same project in different parts of the world. And then we have another a foundry commission where it's 5 photographers, and again, they have their own project, but they work together in an art lab where they are sharing their project and their process of doing their images. So we have 5 photographers working right now all December with a curator from a museum, and she helps them like articulate the project. They're basically workshopping. They do pictures, they come with the curator, they talk, they dialogue, they better the project, and they're working on and on that. So this is something that I used to do in the traditional world, where I receive a grant, and then there's 10 of us with the grant, and we all get together to do the best project that we can. So now we're doing this through Discord and through NFTs, and we all get together and we talk about the project, and it's literally a creative space. It's not just about selling NFTs. It's about developing artistic vision inside of an NFT community.
Yeah, no, it's totally true, because some people say that NFTs, it's just buying JPEG, and but the really beginning, the truth is just to give back the ownership to someone who believe in it, and the name of the photographer, of the artist. It's not just a copy of a copy of a copy. It's inside the blockchain. This is the creator, and this art goes to this person, to this person, to this person. There is a traceability, and this is why I think that photography, as you said, but it was already my thought before you said it, but it's really complementary, and actually it's a useful tools for you, for photography, even more.
Yes, so you're completely right. The values of why a photograph is art and why it is valuable is very analogous with why an NFT is valuable. It has to have aesthetic cohesiveness. It has to, show something about the world, meaning there's a connection between the collector and the artist. And those 2 values is what makes photography an art and valuable. So that is what NFT collectors are looking for, something to connect with, and this understanding that there is aesthetic value, there's conceptual value, historical value. So it's almost like we've been doing NFTs all along in photography.
Actually, the first time that I saw, when I started to learn about NFTs last year, when I first saw a theory of photograph, it was like, but of course, it's NFT since the beginning.
Exactly.
This is from all the kind of art that I saw, it's the most relatable, not relatable, but the most related.
Yes, it's the most related. You're right. Yes.
Totally. It's NFT since the beginning.
Yes.
You can buy it, you put it in your, it's amazing. And just the road DAO, what is, can you explain this?
Yes. So the Raw DAO is a DAO that started its conception maybe 3, 4 months ago. Luis DT, as he's known on Twitter, he started collecting photography 3, 4 months ago, and uh, and he was always talking to me about the idea of doing a DAO that would somehow create a photography collection. And it started with photographers. Like it was maybe we were like 20 something photographers coming together thinking of how to create a collection that will support photography in the NFT space. And it evolved. It brought in more collectors too, and it was a beautiful experiment because you had a group of photographers and a group of collectors trying to build something to help take photography by the hand into the future of NFTs. And as it is right now, it's completely formal. The tokens have been given to the collectors, to the artists, and we're building one of the biggest photography collections in the NFT space. And it's a beautiful place because I think there's different models of how to collect photography. And what the model of Raw DAO is a very interesting model where we're thinking of a community deciding what is valuable as photo NFTs, right? So you have people bringing suggestions of what is valuable, what they think is going to be valuable as photo NFTs, and everybody dialoguing together to come to an understanding of those objects, of those digital objects that are valuable. So the interactions, we can just do that, and that is a beautiful thing for art, where you have people talking and argumenting why they think something is valuable. That's just beautiful, and I think that's one of the most interesting things of DAOs is the opportunity the opportunity to come together with a particular objective, with a mission, and understanding that we're there to grow together, not to fight, but to grow together for the future and for an understanding of what we all believe in. And that is, it's beautiful. I mean, it's such a refreshing sense of how life is not through social media, where there's opinions but not arguments. It's like, I believe this and I don't care about you. And here the DAO structure is, this is what I believe, this is why I believe, and I want to believe with you together. And that is amazing.
This is what we do too in uJenny DAO. It's the governance by the people, actually. It's giving the opportunity to everybody to share their opinion in a respectful way, and to build a community with the same value, actually. And if someone is not agree, you can, by explanation and argumentation, show him that maybe at the first sight it wasn't your opinion, but now let me try to show you my opinion.
Exactly.
And this is what is beautiful about DAO in every kind of way. So it's really nice. But we're doing a lot of things, huh?
Yes. I mean, I was telling you earlier, like, photography is where it is right now because of all these small gestures. It's the idea of almost creating theory around NFT photography. Things don't happen by coincidence. There has to be thoughtfulness and argumentation for things to develop to a different place. If not, then we're just selling postcards of images, and then we're doing nothing new. And for me, the most important thing of NFTs is the history of photography is 200 years, and now there's NFTs. How do we envision all that came before, and how do we envision where we're going? And it's a very responsible moment to
Exactly.
actually do something about photography into the
Yeah.
future and maybe look at the past in a different way today. So there's responsibility in art and in NFTs, and that's something that I take very serious. Just because that's my character, I'm very obsessive, but I
No,
think it's
good ambassador for photography. No,
yes.
we need no joke apart. It's really beautiful to see someone who is committed and passionate. And so thank you again, because as we said earlier, we Jenny Dao on one of your car cooler, and it's a beautiful one now that we had the full explanation.
Yes.
And hopefully we're gonna get another one day.
It's a beautiful series. I mean, it's so simple, and again, it has all these layers of meaning, and then there's the aesthetic part of it that is so cohesive. It's every little aspect of it has sense. You know, you saw the T-shirt thing on the gentleman, but then there's the dashboard. It's almost like a small living sculpture of everyday life. And the 50 of them, when you see them as a collection, there's so many stories between each other and about each other. It's just, you know, you can stay there on and on and on and on and see many things and relate to many of the things in the images.
So let's see if we acquire another one.
Yes.
But, Alessandro, thank you so much. It was a really interesting interview. And I'm really glad that I interviewed a photographer and to see your vision. And I really cannot wait to share it with our community, because it's really amazing. And thank you again for your time. And hopefully we will meet one day when you come back to France, or if you come to Bordeaux, you can come say hi.
Yes, that would be amazing.
Let's keep in touch for future project, exhibition. I really cannot wait to see it.
Thank you so much. Everybody at Jenny Dao, you guys are amazing. And I appreciate that you saw value in the work that I'm doing.
No, it's really sincere. Like, thank you so much. Have a beautiful day. Enjoy France, and let's keep in touch, okay?
Okay.
Thank you, Alejandro. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.